guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Seeing as we're all in quarantine and self-isolation right now, it seems that something everybody's been doing to keep their minds busy is watching movies and TV shows. So I decided for the next few videos, I'm thinking that I'm going to be talking about movies that were based on true life events. Maybe not for all of the videos, but I'm definitely thinking of putting at least one in a week for the time being. So with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. So today we're going to be talking about the movie The Hills Have Eyes, but more than the movie, we are going to be talking about the real life event that inspired the writers of this movie to produce and create this film. The Hills Have Eyes was a movie that I think I first saw when I was about 14 years old, and I'm not the type of person to get too scared by scary movies. I watch them all the time. I watch them alone. They just really usually don't faze me, but The Hills Have Eyes, the remake and the original, both honestly terrified me. I remember watching the remake at one of my girlfriend's house, and I remember we were both just so scared after watching the movie, like we could not sleep. So to find out that it was based on real life events was something that really interested me and made me want to talk about these events on my channel today. So today we're going to be talking about a man by the name of Sawney Bean and his cult or his family. Alexander Sawney Bean was born in the 1500s in Edinburgh, Scotland. Not too much is known about his early life because this case is so old, but many people like to speculate online, and it seems like that the most popular opinion is that he had a fairly normal upbringing. He was pretty close with his family, and he even tried to follow in his father's footsteps as far as his occupation goes. However, I'm not sure what that occupation was, and it obviously didn't work out for Sawney. But the only thing that's really important about this part of the case is that he met a woman by the name of Angus Black Douglas, and the two of them had kind of the same beliefs, and they wanted to be a little bit more recluse and not be too involved in the standard society at that time. After meeting Angus, Sawney and Angus quickly, I guess, fell in love, if that's what you want to call it, and the two decided together that they were going to get married, which happened very quickly after they met. And then they agreed that neither of them had any desire to be a functioning member of society, and so they cut off all ties with everybody that they knew in that area. They quit their jobs and they moved to Ayrshire into Benin Cave. Now this cave was very large, and it gave the couple a good amount of space to start up their new family, and that is exactly what they did. The couple went on to have 14 children, 8 sons and 6 daughters. And because they had such a large family already, it was almost like they had their own society going on within this cave. And that was a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of people to take care of. And again, Angus and Sawney both did not have jobs. They were complete recluses. They didn't involve themselves with any other people except their family. And so at this point, Sawney was already a criminal. He was robbing people, murdering people, just to keep his family afloat. But once the kids became old enough to kind of help out with that, they too started to participate in these criminal activities. And just think about how messed up that is. Killing and robbing people became almost like a family activity. It was something that they all did together. They would go out, they would corner somebody on the trails, and then they would murder them and kill them and rob them all together, all the kids and both the parents. It's just so messed up. But that is all the kids knew. Again, they were recluses. They lived in this cave. All they knew was their parents and their other siblings and the people who they ran into on the trails who they ended up murdering. Anyways, the killing and murdering and robbing went on for some time, leaving the Bean family with several dead bodies piling up. Realizing that they had so many human bodies piling up within their cave and that they had a significant lack of food is when the family decided to resort to eating their kill. And at this point, they pretty much decided that they were only going to eat human meat. So they would salt it and pickle it and prepare it, and that is pretty much, again, all that they ate. They just had a very high protein diet, and all they were eating was human. The growth of this very messed up family did not stop at the children though. They all started to partake in incestual relationships, resulting in 18 grandsons and 14 granddaughters, making the total number of people living in this cave a big number of 46. And That is already almost like they had their own society when they only had 14 children, but 46 people living in this cave who are all eating people, hunting, just doing all of this messed up stuff. It is like they had their own society, and this is when people started to consider this entire family a cult. Because they had so many people living inside of the cave and they were all trained to murder and kill, it was very, very easy for them because it was almost like they had their own little army going on. They would go out and they would stop people in the middle of the trail in close proximity to the cave. They would attack them, kill them, and then drag their lifeless bodies back to the cave where they would salt them and pickle the remains that they weren't going to use right away. Again, the Bean family murdered several people, and this had been going on for the span of 25 years. And they were almost caught several times when limbs would wash up unexplainably on the shores, but people kind of just explained them away and didn't think too much of it. But eventually the numbers of people who began to go missing started to get so high that it could not be ignored any longer. I don't think that anybody even thought to look in the Benin cave for people living, and I don't think that anybody knew that the family was out there. I mean, there might have been some speculation, maybe like an urban legend going on or something like that, but it wasn't anything that people solidly knew was happening. Anyways, during these times, the number of travelers who went missing started to increase significantly. And because of this, many of the inn owners in that general area started to be looked at because they, more often than not, were the last people to see these people who vanished alive. And because of that, a lot of these inns completely went out of business and had to close down completely because they were being accused of crimes that they did not commit. So they had to switch occupations altogether. One night, however, the family was going through what was now second nature to them. They seen a couple coming down the path, a man and a woman, and they stopped in the middle of the trail, cornering them and grabbing the woman and gutting and murdering her right there on the spot. But what was different about this attack was that the man put up a very good fight and was a lot stronger than the family would have expected. The family was unable to overpower the man, and around this time there was about 30 other fairgoers who were coming from the same place as the couple coming down the path. So the family had no other option except to abandon this man in the middle of the path and return back to their cave. However, this not only revealed them as cannibalistic murderers, but it also showed these other 30 fairgoers as well as the husband where exactly their hideout was. The husband was absolutely traumatized, as you can imagine, and he took matters into his own hands at this time, making sure that the people who murdered and ate his wife in front of him would serve justice for what exactly he did. So he headed straight to Glasgow that day and told the king personally exactly what had happened to him. At this time, after hearing about this, the king then took the matters into his hands and he gathered up 400 people who he led personally into the cave, and that is when the Bean family was exposed and found. When the group of people first entered the cave, they were completely taken aback because there were human remains and limbs hanging absolutely everywhere in the cave. On top of that, the Bean family was all naked because none of them had clothes. They didn't have anything. They just lived in this cave. And there was, less surprisingly, stolen goods just laying around in piles all over the floor. The Bean family was arrested immediately, and none of them really put up a fight or anything like that, and they were taken right to Leith, Scotland to await their execution. Many of the people who lost loved ones to these horrible murderers, as well as people who had just heard what they did, demanded that they went through a very heinous and long and painful execution. These demands left authorities to dismember many of the men, leaving them to bleed out to death, and burning many of the women very, very slowly. So obviously, if you have seen the movie The Hills Have Eyes that came out in 1977, or even the 2006 remake, you can see the similarities between this case and those movies. The Hills Have Eyes, the movie, consists of a family traveling from, I believe, LA to Ohio or vice versa, and while they are traveling, they're carrying a very large trailer on the back of their truck with them, and their family consists of the mother and father, the two parents, and then their 3 children, and their oldest daughter is an adult, and she has a husband who is along with them as well as her baby. They also have the 2 family dogs with them. Well, on this trip, they're driving and their car breaks down, but little did they know that the car didn't break down just out of coincidence, but it was actually a trap set up by the people who lived in the local area. And they were all inbred cannibals, which is kind of like what happened in this case. Anyways, those movies are very, very good, and if you are into horror movies and you haven't seen these movies, I highly recommend you watch both of them during your time in quarantine, just maybe not alone because they're very creepy. These kinds of cases are so beyond messed up, I find them almost hitting differently. Anything that has to do with cannibalism and things like that, like incest, cannibalism, anything to do with children, it's some of those cases that not saying that all cases like this are tragic, but ones like this are just so sickening and you can't even wrap your head around them, like it almost feels like fiction. I know that the kids in this case ended up growing up to participate in very heinous things, but I do have a space in my heart for them as well because I feel very, very bad. It's like they didn't even have a chance to do anything else. They didn't know anything outside of this cave life and their parents and what their parents taught them. And although, yes, they did deserve what happened to them, it's so sad that they didn't even have a chance. But this entire case is absolutely disgusting. I hope none of you were eating while you watched this. I don't know, sometimes I sit and eat and watch YouTube videos. Should have mentioned at the beginning of this video, you probably won't want to do that during this video. But that's all that I really have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!